And we're back. Jennifer, tell us more. You're right. Officer Nails is the one who confused those canines.
Let's check the evidence.
Yep. Their dog owners told us that the pets did weird things during the dog show's field exercises. Nicola Hamble said Misha was chasing something invisible with his nose. Mrs. Polaria said Kiki sniffed the ground and ran away in fear. Mr. Cariti told us his dog stopped like he was reading a newspaper. He was, with his nose. At the library, we learned that dogs have a highly developed sense of smell and communicate with each other by smell. We also learned that dogs were originally bred from wolves. Professor Crank told us that his robot dog, Pika, didn't have a sense of smell. At first, the dog show, Pika went first in the exercise and did his exercises perfectly. What nobody saw was that Sergeant Nails had recently sprayed a nearby park with wolf scent. Pika had exercised there just before the dog show and had picked up that smell. When it ran through the field at the dog show, it left a trail of wolf scent. You figured out that the dog's reacting to the threatening new smell that humans couldn't detect. Oh, when will the two of you just get it over and do it? Check out today's courier. Resulka and Professor's robot made the front page. Yeah, that was great detective work, the way Resulka figured out that the wolf scent was what made the dogs act so strangely. This story deserves a page in the scrapbook like all of our cases. It's the day Resulka proved that sometimes even robots have common smells. Ha 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 ha. Oh, God, kill me. Director Sinclair talks. I do not know why that's so newsworthy. Deer Repellent Bungle's Dog Show. Canine chaos was set in order today as investigators from the Eagle Eye Detective Agencies showed that wolf scent had disrupted the field exercises at the annual dog show. Resulka and Jennifer Eagle discovered the city of Richview had sprayed a faint wolf scent at Riverside Park to discourage wild deer from foraging there. The smell was transferred to a mechanical dog owned by Professor Crank, where it gambled in Riverside Park. When the mechanical dog ran through the field at Taylor Park, it left a scent trail, much as the wolf would have. The new and puzzling smell was too much for the dogs that followed, each of whom broke training to react to the scent. A grand piece of detective work, proclaimed Dr. Canera, president of the Dog Fanciers Club. Dogs live in a universe that smells that we cannot detect. Resulka was being clever to figure out the smell behind was the behavior of the puzzled pooches. The puzzled pooches. Them puzzles were pooches. The case of the buried bouteille. Come on, black screen. Phone? Phone? Yay! I got it right. Case over.
Eagle Eye Detective Agency. Jennifer here.
Jennifer, I've got something terribly exciting for you and Resulka to see here at the Historical Society. Mr. Peel found a letter written by Violet Verse. Violet Verse? Didn't she live in Richview over 100 years ago? And the post office is just delivering her letter? Oh, don't be silly, Jennifer. The letter wasn't mailed. It was found hidden in an old desk. It's very mysterious, much like Violet Verse, and it talks about treasure. Come see. All right, Mrs. Arnold, we'll be right over. To the Historical Society. Dinner. Mrs. Arnold has been manager of the Richview Historical Society for years. Mr. Arnold helps her identify some of the historical objects and documents. Hey, lady. Jennifer Resulka, you must read this. Mr. Peel was about to sell an old desk to Brass Monkey's Antiques. He said he found the letter when he was clearing the desk out. It appears to be from Violet Verse, the famous robber. Oh, she was a robber. The letter reads, "'Tween life and happiness buried here. Find fair Portia's treasure. Then, my dear, the prize is yours." Signed, Violet Verse. With the letter came a map. Mr. Arnold could tell you more about it. Well, I've been studying Violet's map all morning, comparing it with some of the maps we have here. It's a map of old Ridgeview, all right, around the mid-1800s, I'd guess. I don't know why I'm suddenly western, but oh well, let's stick with it. Some of these old buildings still exist, and I recognize some of the landmarks marked by an X here. For example, Wraith Rocks is in Riverside Park. Instead of marking the location of the map, this map gives 3 possible sites and puzzling labels. Gold, silver, lead. What the blazes do they mean? We can't search all the locations. The Historical Society is just too short of funds. We were hoping you kids could find the real treasure site, or tell us if this is some kind of trick. By Mr. Peel. The yellowed map is a crumbling piece of yellow parchment with a sketchy outline of the town of Ridgeview in 1850s. The 3 treasure sites are marked each with a big X. Their names are written beneath them. Rafe Rock, Liberty Tavern, and Harrison Hole. Each site has another label too. Under Rafe Rock is written in flowery handwriting is gold. Under Harrison Hole it says silver, and Liberty Tavern is written the word lead. Let's read the books. All the known references to the woman called Violet Verse have been collected in this stack of clippings. No one knows her real name. She was a highwaywoman, a masked robber who stopped travelers and robbed them at gunpoint. The newspaper called her Violet Verse because she always had a violet scarf over her face, and because she would quote poetry as she robbed people. They say she was quite fond of Shakespeare, and she did it many times. In the 1850s, she was robbing travelers all over the area. She never hurt anyone. Then in 1855, she seemed to vanish and was never heard from again. What a mysterious lady. Yes, it's a good story. In fact, Mrs. Garcia has been writing a book about her. She's the one that gathered all this information together. She's in here quite often reading through it. Well, then it makes sense for us to go and see Mrs. Garcia. Mrs. Garcia! Mrs. Garcia! I bet Mrs. Garcia will tell us a thing or two about Violet Verse and the things in her cryptic letter. Mrs. Garcia, have you heard? Mrs. Arnold has a letter supposedly written by Violet Verse herself. Oh, yes, I've heard, and I'm dying to see it as soon as I get off work. I'll rush over there. Did you know I'm writing a book about her? This discovery could really help move my book along. Who was Violet Verse, Mrs. Garcia? She was me. Nobody knows. Violet Verse is what the newspapers named a mysterious woman who held up travelers all over the area. She wore a violet scarf over her face, and she would quote Shakespeare as she stole other people's money. Quite a character. Okay. A book on local history mentions Violet Verse briefly. It says Violet Verse was a colorful bandit who robbed several wealthy travelers in the area of Round Ridgeview in 1850s. She eluded the law for many years and was last seen in 1855. A reward for her capture was never claimed. In this literature section, there is a book containing all of Shakespeare's plays. Shakespeare is perhaps the most celebrated writer in the English language. Living in England during the Renaissance, around 500 years ago, he wrote plays and poems that are still immensely popular today. Oh, brave world, that have such people in it. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. To be or not to be, that is the question. Those are all quotes from Shakespeare plays. Look, an index to all the characters in Shakespeare's plays. It says that there was a woman called Portia in the Shakespeare play called The Merchant of Venice. Violet Verse was a big fan of Shakespeare. Maybe there's a clue in the play. Let's read further. The language of Shakespeare's day is pretty hard to understand. In the play, Portia poses a puzzle to the men who come to woo her. One of the 3 boxes hold her picture, and they have to pick the right one. And get this, 1 box is gold, 1 box is silver, and 1 is made of lead. Let's read further. The hero chooses the box made of lead, and he's right. All that glitters is not gold. And I guess that means that sometimes what looks boring can actually be pretty cool once you get to it. So it's at Liberty Tavern then. The biographical dictionary has information on a lot of living people, both living and dead. Maybe we can find something out about this Portia. What was her treasure was? Was it gold or maybe silver or lead? There's no one named Portia listed in the biographical dictionary. Jennifer, something just hit me. Mr. Arnold read me the note with the map, and I've been trying to figure out why it was so familiar. Violet first wrote between life and happiness. I've often heard those words together in the Constitution of the United States. The quote of the Constitution is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I hope that helps. Yeah, so it's Liberty Tavern. Doy. Anyway, so we'll be back in the next episode. See you soon. Bye bye.